This is the Parkside lathe machine. This is available in little stores up and down the country. I'm filming in the UK here. It's available across Europe, and I don't know about the US, but I'm sure if it's not this machine, there'll be similar machines available in the US. This is a home machine, a hobby machine, something that we'd use occasionally. It's certainly not commercial standard. It's something that can cope with basic things, and it's a good entry machine for learning on. And the purpose of this video really is to give you an indication as to whether you should buy one or not. You will have seen lots of videos which sort of skirt around the issue of buying certain tools, and they will say, yeah, you can buy one depending on your needs, depending on this. My view is keep it simple. I'm saying buy one. If you're interested in doing any sort of lathe work and you've never done it before and you don't really want to spend a great deal of money, get one of these. Now here's why I say that. Number one, it's cheap. This isn't expensive. At times this has been sold at Lidl for I think as little as £60. It's not always there. It comes up once in a while. I've seen it on sale in other places for £100, £120. But even at £120, this is a great value machine. It comes with the machine itself, which is made of plastic and aluminium. It's got an aluminium base here, plastic body construction, simple to operate, on-off switch, and it's speed control here, starting all the way as low as 800 revs up to 2600. And believe me, 2600 with a lump of wood that up to, let's say a foot, 2 foot long, it seems like it's moving a lot quicker than 2600, and you wouldn't want it to go any faster. In fact, at that point, I very rarely even take it up to that kind of speed. It'll just vibrate too much, unless you've got the wood perfectly balanced and centered. It comes with 2 heads, spindles. I have 2 of these, and I don't know how I acquired 2, but I've acquired 2 somehow of these. But it only comes with 1. It also comes with an alternative aluminium fitting plate, which I shall show you. The plate looks like this, and it attaches in place of that, so you'd obviously have to remove this to put this in its place. Also supplied with the unit are a couple of tools. I'm not going to lie to you, they're not great, but they work. Yeah, they're questionable tools. Would I use them? Yeah, I have used them, and they're actually not bad. They do work, and I wouldn't recommend you buy any more tools on this. Not to start with, at least. Run with these, see how you get on, and if you decide this is something for you and you want to do this more and more, then invest in some good tools. So what are good tools? I mean, I have some tools here. Just place these ones back. These are more expensive tools. There are a set of 5 here, and I won't go into what the individual tools are because there are many videos on YouTube talking about different tools for different purposes, and everybody has an opinion, and I'm not so experienced that I can tell you what tools are best and what to use for what. But what I can say is that a good set of tools certainly makes a difference, almost night and day, once you start using the lathe properly. This set of tools here, a set of 5, was about £150. Much more expensive than the lathe itself. Now, I wouldn't recommend that you do this and go out there and buy tools like this. It's just not sensible to start with. Maybe later on when you get into it. I didn't even buy these, to be honest. It was a gift, and I would never have purchased a set of tools for £150, not with this lathe machine. But I got these as a gift, and I've used them, and I love them. It does make a big difference. If I were to go purchase a set of tools, once I'd got beyond the use of these tools, as in I reached their limit, I'd probably be looking to spend about £60-70. And I may even look for a second-hand set of tools if they've been well maintained. Also, the machine comes with these. They're just for releasing the spindle. So you're going to need those, and that's it. That's the machine, and of course it comes with a set of instructions. So it comes with everything that you need to get started. You're not going to purchase machine and think, right, I now need to go and get extra bits before I can use it. That said, I would recommend that you probably get some way of attaching this down to a bench. I use clamps, and so if you've got clamps, great. If not, you've actually got places here you can actually screw it down. Up to you, not essential. I would recommend making sure the machine is firmly down on a bench or in some fashion to stop vibration or to reduce the vibration. Oh, I forgot to mention this. Obviously, it's got a tool rest. The tool rest metal piece here, I fabricated that because the one it came with was bad. I've talked about this in another video. It's not good. It was brittle. It cracked. It just broke off one day, and I made a new one. Now, not everybody will be in a position to do that, and not everybody will break their tool like I did. So don't worry too much about it. Break the rest rather. So don't worry too much about it. But should it break, which it might, you might need to do a bit of DIY work to get a new one in place. So yeah, that's what it comes with. It's a good machine. If you want to get into lathe work, get one of these. Now, one of the things somebody asked me recently, one of the comments on a video was, why is my machine smoking? And I don't know all the detail, but I'm going to assume it's smoking from here because this is the only driven end, and this is where bad things could happen because of the motor in there, and there's probably a belt in there. So I'm assuming smoke was coming from this area. It's really hard to say why. The viewer suggested it was a new machine, so I don't think anything would have worn out. They're pretty reliable, these machines, and they're pretty solid. So I can only assume that when using the spindle, you're relying on compression. So in between here and here, you're going to place a piece of wood, and then you're going to rely on compression to keep it there, along with the little spiky bits on the spindle attachment. And this tailstock unit here, you push it up against the wood. In fact, I'm going to load this up. Bear with me. There we go. Sample piece of wood in there. The machine's loaded up there, and it relies on compression between this tailstock and the spindle to keep that in place. You use this to lock down the tailstock, and it does that by clamping itself in place. It's not the traditional threaded mechanism where you turn a handle, tailstock would move, and then you lock it down. No, you slide it along, and then you use this to apply compression here, and it holds the tailstock down on this aluminium base. Once you've got it in place reasonably tight, you would turn this, and this would apply more compression. The threaded piece here would come out, applying pressure this way and driving the piece of wood into here. And you can see this has now gone into the wood. This attachment here is now embedded itself into this piece of wood. Now that is firmly on. You could go ahead and spin that and it'd be pretty secure. However, what you could also do, you could turn this more and more and more, and that would apply more and more pressure here. Now that could stall the machine because you're applying that the pressure onto here. I don't know, I've never opened this, I don't know what's going on behind there, but I can only assume that if you're applying a lot of force this way, it would inhibit the ability for the motor to spin as it ought to spin, and that could cause a lot of friction, and that could cause smoking. And because I don't know the specific scenario under which the viewer's machine starts to smoke, I can't be 100% sure, but it's a reasonable guess at why it might be smoking. So how do you avoid that? Well, I say don't use this. I absolutely detest this unit here. I think it's just a recipe for disaster. If I were to get my tool here and get this spinning at high speed and be a little bit too aggressive with my tool, and the compression isn't right, this could come out. So it's dangerous. It could be lethal. People have been injured badly with pieces of flying wood. Whole lumps coming out. I've had a whole lump come out, fly past my head at God knows what speed. And this isn't a solid machine. It will shake a little bit. And this tailstock isn't 100% securely attached. Well, it is. That's not true. It's securely attached, but it can have a little bit of movement in it. It doesn't give you as much confidence as you would like when something is spinning at the kind of speeds that it does. So my recommendation, and it is only my recommendation, there'll be many who disagree with me, which is absolutely fine. You can disagree. My recommendation would be get rid of this, use this plate only. Using this plate, the material is secure on here. You screw this into the material, and I'll show you that in a minute, and then attach this to the spindle head here. And once you've done that, the material is secure on this end. It doesn't rely on compression at all. In fact, you don't even have to use the tailstock for all bits. If you're working on a small piece of material, you don't need the tailstock at all once attached to this. But you can still use the tailstock just to bring it up close, center the material, and reduce vibration and shake. So it's still, it's still going to be used, the tailstock, but it isn't going to use to compress the material. And that, to me, is a much better way of working. Now, obviously, this is a bigger plate. That's something small. You might question, well, how do you use this for something small? Well, you just have to be a bit more intelligent in your approach. In the sense, if you've got a big piece of wood that you want to shape down to something small, well, just leave a piece at the end and then cut that off with a saw later. And you'll see plenty of videos on YouTube on how to do that. So that shouldn't be the reason why you don't use this. Just watch videos on how people have used similar tools, similar plates like this, to work on small bits of wood. So typically this would attach like this. You'd put in 6 screws into here. You can see the screw holes that I've already put in there from working on this piece of wood earlier, and that would be it. You'd attach that to this and you'd put it onto the machine and off you go. Now that, as I said before, is my recommended way of using this machine, and you'd only detach this once you've completed the work. And if you were to take the whole lot off the machine, and as long as this is still attached to this, you could reload it on the machine again, because it would this plate remains in place. You've not lost the center point. If you were to take this off and reset it somewhere slightly here or there, the whole thing is going to be off center and it'll shake like crazy. Now, because this is screwed in, and so long as you don't take the screws out and keep them, you can detach this lump as one from the machine and put it back on the machine should you need to, for whatever reason. Going back to this becomes a little bit more tricky. If I now detach this simply by moving the tailstock like this, now it's loosened a bit. As soon as I've loosened this, I'm now in a position where, in fact, let's loosen it a bit more. If I were to take this piece of material out, God knows why I'd do that during my work, but you may have a need to do that. There we go, taken it out. If I had to put that back in the machine to get that exactly centered again, it would be incredibly difficult. And you'll probably find if you take it off and put it back on, it will not spin in center anymore. It's going to shake slightly. And for all those reasons, I don't use this. So top tip, if you can avoid using this, avoid using that. And so let's talk a little bit about what you can make with this machine. It's a small machine. It doesn't have much power. So you would start to question, well, what can I actually do? Can I make anything useful out of this machine? Can I produce something that's worthwhile, or is it just little test pieces that you'll do to get an idea of what lathe work's all about? Again, people have got opinions. People have said this machine is useless, you can do very little with it. I have a different opinion. I think you can do a lot with it. I think you can even do useful things with it. You can build things which can be of practical use. And let me show you the kind of things that I've built using this very machine. Not a machine like this one, this actual machine. Right, so that's a little pepper pot holder. It was simply designed to hold the fallings from this pepper pot. You put it in there, and a little bits of pepper fall out into there, as you can see. It's not massive, it's a small piece. It's probably about, what would you say, it's about 80 centimeters in diameter, 80 millimeters in diameter, and maybe about 40-50 in its width. It's made of oak, it's solid, it's made out of one piece. You can still see the holes from the plate that was attached. So yeah, nothing challenging really. It's quite simple. It's kind of a first project kind of thing, but it's something useful and it gets used in the house. So there you go. Can you make something useful? Sure you can. Now moving on to something a bit more, let's say, challenging. This is a saw handle. This is attached to a Japanese saw type tool. It used to be a plastic handle. The plastic handle broke. I had a piece of oak laying around. It wasn't a particularly good piece of oak, but it's good enough for this. Stuck it on the lathe machine, and the piece of wood to start with was probably about that kind of, I would say about 80 mil by 80 mil square, and it was probably a little longer than what this is, maybe about up to here. And this is what I made out of it. I shaped it on the lathe, split it in two using a bandsaw, and it became the handle for this tool. This is probably my third or fourth project using this machine. So it didn't take a great deal of skill, experience, and I produced something quite useful. And this has been on here now for, I would say, I've been using this for the last 6 to 12 months, maybe more. So I was able to make something useful and something that's lasted. So yeah, again, very, you can produce useful things. Here we have a candle holder with a bit of clear acrylic. So I sandwiched two pieces of oak with a piece of acrylic, and I made a little candle holder. That's quite thick oak, as you can see. It's probably about 20 centimeters in its thickness. 20 millimeters in its thickness, as the wall thickness, I mean. And there we go. It's probably about 10 centimeters in its height. The diameter, I'd guess, maybe another 10 centimeters. Yeah, 10 centimeters diameter, give or take. That's probably, in fact, we'll measure it. So there we go. So it's just over 90 mil in height and in diameter. And this is oak again, so it's heavy stuff. It's about the same, about 90-95 in its diameter. So pretty hefty. And that again was an early project I did. Not the best, but it was a really good learning experience of what you could do by mixing materials. Now this I produced using the new set of tools. I think you could probably have done this. I could have equally done this with a set of tools that come in the package, but I got the new set of tools and I want to do something, let's call it finer work, and where the wall thickness is a lot thinner and the finish is better. There's no two ways about it. The finish with those tools is certainly better. Would you have to spend £150 to get the same finish? Probably not. You could probably get a cheaper set of tools and still get a good finish. But since I had them, I used them, and I managed to produce this. And this was out of quite a substantial lump. This was out of this 150 mil in its diameter. So that's probably coming on close to the maximum diameter the machine can actually turn. And its thickness, as you can see, let's say that's about another 100 mil in its thickness. So it's not at its limit. In diameter it is, but obviously I could do a much longer piece, and I have done longer piece, and I'll show you that in a second. But again, a nice little piece there, produced on this machine. Now moving on to something far more complex and challenging. This was produced on the machine again, and this is approximately, let's say, about 100 to 110 mil in its diameter, and in height it is about 170 mil in height. It's quite a hefty, heavy unit. It's solid. Well, it's not solid actually, because there's a hollow core inside where there's a big light bulb. And this is a little lamp I produced using acrylic and oak. I sandwiched several bits together in different ways, glued it all in as a big lump. So the lump which I loaded the machine with was obviously a lot bigger than this, and this was shaped down to this size. The lump was probably probably around about maybe 160 square, 160 millimeters squared, and then the height was a bit bigger than this. So yeah, you can actually produce quite advanced things on this machine. I call it advanced. I mean, I've only been using the machine for 6 to 12 months. For me, that's certainly quite advanced, and it took a lot of work. And it's a heavy lump, and the machine coped quite well with it. And finally, here we have a vase made out of plywood. Plywood stacked up, several square pieces of plywood stacked up on top of each other, all the way to the height of this vase, stuck on the machine and spun. Now, this was, for me, the limit of what this machine can do. I'm sure there are people out there who could achieve more out of the machine, but for me, this is the maximum I was able to do and would dare to do on that machine. And by dare to do, I mean that's heavy. This is not light. This is a heavy lump. And to spin something at 2000 plus revs of this size and a machine of that size, it's a bit scary, but it did it, and I was able to produce this. It's approximately 350 mm in height, and I'm going to give you a rough estimate of the diameter, though this is by no means accurate. Let's call it 20, just short of 20 centimeters in diameter, 190 mm to 200 mm in diameter. Now that, as I say, is the limit of the machine. You physically cannot put anything bigger in diameter on there. You possibly get away with putting something a little bit longer, and this is only 30, what do we say, 360 or something in height, millimeters. You could possibly get away all the way to 400, 500, even some people say 600. You know, not if you want to live. It's pretty scary when it's running at this kind of speed and it's this big. But the point is, you can produce useful stuff, actual useful stuff that can be used. You could possibly sell these things in a craft fair if you really wanted to. I don't. I just do things for learning experience and fun. And so I encourage you to do the same. Experiment, see what you can do. Send me questions, send me ideas. I'd love to try new things. If you've got things that you think, some advice on how to do things a bit better than I've done them, please do share. I've only been doing this for 6 to 12 months, and I'm learning every day. But be safe, because it's a dangerous machine. I mean, all these machines are dangerous machines, but this, to me, it's I've had wood fly out of this machine, and when a piece of wood flew out of this machine, whizzing past my head, I changed the way I used the machine. I had the safety gear on, had goggles on, had a hearing protection on, but still, had that lump of wood hit my face, all of those things would have made no difference. So I've changed the way I use the machine. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos about where to position yourself, where you position yourself when running the machine, how to position your tools. Do that. Watch those videos, and just be safe, because it can be a dangerous machine, but also really rewarding to use. So if you see this come up at Lidl and you have an opportunity to buy, and it's something you're interested in, do it.